Super Smash Bros. Is at a bit of a crossroads. What can they possibly do to follow up Everyone is here? I think that the next Smash Bros. Will not have everyone be here, and will instead focus on updating the movesets of past characters. This is especially necessary for characters who were originally from Smash Bros. 64 or Melee, many of which have much simpler movesets compared to the more complicated characters introduced in Smash 4 and Ultimate. With the developers not being so concerned with quantity, they can really hone in on the quality of each remaining fighter's individual movesets. Hello there everyone, welcome to the Game Cubicle, where today we are going to look at 8 Super Smash Bros. Characters who desperately need modern updates, starting with
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong's redesign is definitely going to play a big role in his next Smash Bros. Appearance. But beyond his new design and a few new skins, how will his moveset change? So the main element of gameplay in Donkey Kong Bonanza is DK's ability to destroy most of the terrain around him. This element of gameplay would not translate too well into Smash Bros. If Donkey Kong could destroy parts of the stage, that would probably give him an unfair advantage. So I don't think he can do much of that. Instead, I think that the Bonanza transformations will play a major part in DK's special attacks. His punch attack would remain functionally the same, but would have him turn into Kong Bonanza when he unleashes the punch at full power. Side special could be some sort of dash attack using Zebra Bonanza. Down special could use Elephant Bonanza, where he inhales some dirt to create a projectile to throw, and it could also inhale items. And finally, up special recovery could be Snake Bonanza, which would spring up into the air and come down with a bang. This does leave out Ostrich Bonanza, so sorry Ostrich. As for his smash attacks, I always found his claps and slaps to be a little out of character for the Big 8, so his smash attacks should be changed to align more with his punches and ground pounds seen in Bonanza. There's also the question of whether or not to have Pauline accompany Donkey Kong to Smash Bros. Perhaps her shout attacks could be DK's projectile attack instead of Elephant Bonanza. As for DK's final smash, I always found his bunch of punches to be pretty lame. Honestly, I think they should go back to Donkey Kong's original final smash from Brawl where he played the bongos. Sure, it wasn't as good of a final smash in terms of effectiveness, but with so much of Donkey Kong's new character referencing Bonanza, it would be nice to have some reference to DK's roots, and the bongo final smash would accomplish that quite well.
Mario!
While Smash Ultimate added cosmetic references to Super Mario Odyssey with his up specials sometimes spawning purple coins and Cappy, it did not add any elements of Odyssey to Mario's gameplay. I do understand why the developers didn't go in this direction, as the main element of Odyssey's gameplay is taking over and controlling the bodies of other beings. A great premise for a game, but not something that would translate too well to Smash. Perhaps Mario could throw Cappy, but then it would just be strange to have him throw Cappy and then not capture anything. For this reason, I don't think Odyssey has any place in Mario's move pool. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, on the other hand, has lots of potential to reshape Mario in the next Smash. First off, I think Mario's smash attacks should utilize the elephant power-up. Mario's smash attacks are basically just him hitting you, and I always found that very un-Mario, since he hasn't been known to throw a punch since Super Mario 64. I know his forward smash has him use a fireball, which is a little more Mario-ish, but I think that the elephant transformations would be a great way to implement Wonder into his character. I also think that Mario's neutral B should be slightly tweaked to have him use the fire, ice, and bubble flower, with the 3 switching out after each use, similar to how Sora's elemental specials work. While Mario has a decent final smash, I do think we can do better with the Wonder Flower. The Wonder Flower final smash could summon one of a few random Wonder Flower events, such as summoning all these eating guys, changing the gravity and trapping other players in one place, and turning all other fighters into Goombas, which would be much easier to knock out.
Kirby!
Kirby was a character that, at first, I didn't think needed much change, as a lot of his attacks do his original series justice, with his specials directly referencing his copy abilities. But I do think that there are a few ways that Kirby could be reimagined in the next Smash. One thing about Kirby in Smash that is inconsistent with the Kirby of the games is that he uses multiple different abilities at once. There isn't a point in the Kirby series where Kirby can ever use, say, Hammer and Stone one after another. Except, of course, in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, but that was only because that special copy ability was a direct reference to Smash. By the way, it was super difficult to get this footage of Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, as I haven't played a lot of that game on NSO yet, so I had to go really out of my way to go find the Master Hand mini-boss, but that's just the extra mile that I will go for my audience. Hey, don't forget to subscribe. Kirby's main gimmick in Smash is that he can copy the neutral special of any character he is fighting, but what if that went one step further, and instead of only copying the neutral special, he copied all the specials of his opponents? Now, I do see some problems with this creative direction. First off, it turns what was once a small little gimmick of the character into that character's defining trait, and runs the risk of turning Kirby into a character who isn't taken seriously outside of casual play. I don't know if this would actually happen in practice, but if the Smash developers have tried this, they may have come to this conclusion in game testing. Another issue with this idea is that it moves Kirby away from the attacks that reference his own series. While perhaps Kirby would still have access to these attacks when he has no character copy ability, it would still mean that those attacks are less used, which would make Kirby lose a little bit of his identity. Because this Kirby suggestion is so drastic and may not work, I want to propose another one. Perhaps Kirby could, in a manner similar to Shulk, switch out copy abilities that would then dominate the rest of his special and Smash attacks. The copy abilities available to Kirby could be Hammer, Sword, which would also include Cutter, Stone, Fire, and Ice. But maybe both Kirbys could work together if they were separate characters. You could have regular Kirby and copy Kirby as two distinct characters on the roster. Now, if they did this, they better also add Bandana Waddle Dee, because I wouldn't want to see Kirby on the roster twice without Bandana D. And for Kirby's final Smash, he's gotta go back to using Cook from Brawl. Getting hit with a sword is already the final Smash of like 10 different characters, and sure, Kirby has a big sword, but the novelty of the Cook final Smash from Brawl is unrivaled, and just so Kirby. I think you might be seeing a trend here with my final Smash suggestions. I much prefer the wackier but less strategically effective final Smashes of Brawl over the more one big blast final Smashes of Smash 4 and Ultimate. So Link actually got the most updates of all the Smash 64 characters in Ultimate by implementing Breath of the Wild into his design and moveset. The biggest change to Link was his use of the blue remote bombs from Breath of the Wild, and while that was only a change to one attack, it completely reshaped how the character was played, and was far and away the best way to implement Breath of the Wild into Link's moveset. But now Breath of the Wild has a sequel. Problem is, Link's main power in Tears of the Kingdom isn't as easy to translate to Super Smash Bros. Moving objects and sticking them together, I just don't really know how Smash would do that. But there is one other Tears of the Kingdom game mechanic that could be added to Link's moveset: item combining. Using a list system similar to Hero, Link could select different items to attach to his sword, shield, and arrows. These items will have a limited quantity that would reset either after a certain time limit or after Link is KO'd. So some of the more powerful items like bomb flowers can't be used as often as more standard items like, say, fire fruit. One fun part of this would be the shield items such as the spring that could bounce away your enemies or the rocket that could provide extra recovery. There is endless potential for what sort of items Link can attach, but if the developers do go in this direction, I do hope they exercise restraint and only put in the right amount of items to keep Link a balanced character that an opponent would still be able to follow. As for Link's final Smash, the Ancient Arrow is probably still the best way to go, although I am conflicted as to whether or not he should return to his old Triforce Arrow final Smash. In Ultimate, it didn't matter so much that his final Smash got changed because Young Link and Toon Link had the original final Smash. But as you could see in my previous video on which Smash characters I think won't return, I think it's pretty likely we're only gonna have one Link next game. Pikachu! Pikachu is probably the character on this list who is least likely to get big changes, but I do think that Pokemon's most famous mouse is in need of a few updates. While Pikachu's attacks do reference actual Pokemon moves quite well, I think that there are a few other moves that Pikachu could utilize in a fresh new setting. One attack I think Pikachu should use is Iron Tail, which could be its new up smash. For a down smash, I think the attack Dig would actually be a pretty good candidate, as Pikachu could dig underground as he charges up the attack. I also think they could give Pikachu a power-up meter similar to Joker's that would cause him to terrestrialize once it reaches full power. For Pikachu's final smash, I think it should go Gigantamax and drop a bunch of lightning bolts all over the place, and after the final smash strikes, electric terrain would appear, which would power up some of Pikachu's attacks. I do also want to quickly shout out Mega Evolution as a possible power-up function for Mewtwo, Lucario, and Charizard. I know Mewtwo and Lucario do become Mega in their final smashes, but it doesn't feel as much like a full form change as they only do it to unleash their big attack. Since Mega Evolution is going to be a big part of Legends ZA, I'd like to see it used more with Pokemon fighters.
Bowser.
Okay, first thing we need to do with Bowser, update the voice clips. Back in Melee, Bowser was a lot more monstrous, but over the years there has been a lot of development to him as a character that I would like to see reflected in Smash, especially his more humorous side. Bowser's attacks also don't feel very Bowser-like either. They were clearly all attacks that were designed for Smash Bros. And aren't based on anything he does in games. I also don't like his attack where he just grabs you and flips you over because it can be used to take cheap stocks. His most Bowser attack is his flamethrower, which could either stay the same or be replaced by a single fireball blast, which is something he more commonly does in his boss fights. His side special I think should be a hammer throw. I know he hasn't thrown hammers in a long time, but I think it would be a cool reference to his original appearance. His down special would probably remain the same as it is pretty iconic at this point despite being original to Smash, or it could be replaced with an attack where Bowser turns into a ball of spikes. His up special is pretty well designed both in terms of a regular attack and a recovery attack. If Bowser Jr. didn't exist, I would probably advocate for him to summon the clown car, but for the sake of him not jacking Jr.'s ride, I suppose his up special can stay the same. I think his smash attacks are pretty good, but I would like to change his up smash to have him throw up a Dark Star, or a Zitar as they're sometimes referred to in Mario Party games. I always wanted to see Bowser use a Dark Star in Smash, and I think this is the perfect place for it. Now let's talk about his final smash. Can we acknowledge that having him turn into Giga Bowser just to throw a punch completely misses the point of Giga Bowser? Like, the novelty of Giga Bowser is that he moves around the stage like Bowser would, but he's like super huge and super overpowered. And the fact that in Brawl, they actually figured out a way to have you play as Giga Bowser through the final smash was just perfect. Then they decided to blow it with this big punch nonsense. I debated whether or not Giga Bowser should even be Bowser's final smash with the existence of Fury Bowser, but even though Giga Bowser is a Smash Bros. Original, it is such an iconic part of Smash that I think it would be a disservice for him to not have Giga Bowser be a part of his character. They just should return to what they did in Brawl, where you actually play as Giga Bowser.
Sonic.
So this is the only character on this list that isn't from 64 or Melee. The main reason I want to see some big changes made to Sonic is that this character is just not fun to fight against at all. And that's not because he's high tier, it just isn't that fun to navigate a stage around this little speeding ball. It's strange that 3 of Sonic's special attacks are just a different version of him turning into a ball. Sure, in a way I get it, it's not easy to translate a character known for going fast into a fighting game, but I still think there are some things they could have done. Like they could, oh yeah, this is hard. He could throw a chow at someone. Perfect.
Ganondorf.
Ganondorf, the guy who took Captain Falcon way too seriously when he said, "Show me your moves." He meant show him your own moves, not steal his. So because Melee was such a rushed game, many of the characters had to be created off of other characters. Some of these made perfect sense. Dr. Mario was made off Mario, Falco was made off Fox, Pichu was made off Pikachu. The odd one out, however, was Ganondorf being made off of Captain Falcon. These seemingly unrelated characters have now been intertwined for now nearly a quarter of a century thanks to this one time and cost-saving decision. Back in Melee, other than their speed and damage output, the only difference between Falcon and Ganondorf was this weird full leg split thing that Ganondorf did. Is this a thing that he does in any Zelda game? With every subsequent Smash game, Ganondorf got a little less Captain Falcon-like. In Brawl, his side special and neutral special, while still having some roots in Falcon's movesets, were tweaked to feel a little more Ganondorfy. Ultimate did the most to differentiate him from Falcon by making his smash attacks involve this big sword. But even to this day, you can still feel Captain Falcon's influence on Ganondorf. In the next Smash game, Ganondorf needs to acknowledge his formal cease and desist letter from Captain Falcon and finally create his own original moveset. But what would those moves be? I think the best direction to go would be to have him completely embody Tears of the Kingdom Ganondorf. They couldn't really do the same with Breath of the Wild's Ganon because he was a bit too monstrous in that game. But Tears of the Kingdom's Ganondorf would translate much better into Smash. In Tears of the Kingdom, Ganondorf uses a few different weapons, which I think could all be implemented into his Smash attacks instead of just the one sword. Perhaps these weapons could also be used to unfalcon some of his jab and tilt attacks as well. Maybe they can still keep the weird leg split thing because that's become a Ganondorf staple. And perhaps the Warlock Punch can stay as well. But his side special, down special, and up special need to change. I mostly dislike his side special for the same reason I dislike Bowser's side special, as it can lead to getting cheap stocks, while his up and down specials are just ripoffs of Captain Falcon moves. I think that Gloom Hands can be used in each of these specials in different ways, with the side special being flinging Gloom Hands forward, the down special summoning 2 Gloom Hands to each side, and the up special being some sort of Gloom Hand tether that could grab ledges. His final smash should have him turn into the Demon Dragon to fully complete his Tears of the Kingdom transformation. This new Ganondorf that came about in Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely the perfect opportunity for them to finally change Ganondorf for the better. And hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. An easy way to support the channel is to simply like the video and hit that subscribe button. But if you want to prove you're a real Game Cubicle fan and want to help me get to a place where I can make more consistent quality content for you guys, you should consider becoming a channel member or supporting the Patreon that I set up for both my channels. Oh yeah, did I mention I have another channel as well? That one is more about covering animated shows. You should totally check it out. Anyway, I really appreciate you coming to visit the channel today, and I hope to see you again real soon.